We've all seen it. The kid who got straight A's, the person who can explain the intricacies of quantum physics, or the nuances of 18th century literature. Yet, they're struggling. They're living paycheck to paycheck, drowning in a sea of reasonable debt, while the guy who barely passed high school is out there building a real estate empire or a tech startup. It feels like a glitch in the matrix. We're taught from birth that intelligence equals success, that if you study hard, get the degree, and be smart, the money will follow. But the data tells a different story. Research, including a famous study by Jay Zagorski at Ohio State University, shows that while people with higher IQs tend to earn higher incomes, they are no more likely to be wealthy than those with lower IQs. In fact, high IQ individuals often have higher levels of credit card debt and lower net worths. Why? Today, we aren't talking about a lack of effort. We're talking about the intelligence trap. We're going to deconstruct the 15 psychological and systemic reasons why being smart might actually be the very thing keeping you poor. Reason 1. Analysis paralysis. Smart people are experts at seeing all the angles. If they want to start a business, they don't just start, they research. They look at the 5-year market projections, the competitive landscape, the potential tax implications, and the 400 things that could go wrong. By the time they've finished their 80-page business plan, the window of opportunity has closed. Or worse, they've talked themselves out of it entirely. Wealth creation often requires taking action with incomplete information. While the smart person is still calculating the trajectory, the bold person has already jumped, built their wings on the way down, and landed. In the world of money, execution is the only currency that matters. Reason 2. The good student syndrome. Most smart people were good students. They spent 20 years being rewarded for following instructions and coloring within the lines. The problem? The real world doesn't have a syllabus. In school, you're taught that there is one right answer. In the economy, the right answer is often the one no one else is doing. Wealth is frequently found in the margins, in breaking rules, questioning authority, and pivoting when the instructions fail. Smart people often wait for permission. They wait for someone to tell them it's time for a promotion or safe to invest. But in the game of wealth, nobody is coming to give you the A+. You have to grade yourself. Reason 3. Overcomplicating simple systems. Smart people hate simple solutions. To a high IQ brain, if it's simple, it must be beneath them. They don't want to hear that wealth is built by spending less than you earn and investing in low-cost index funds for 30 years. That's boring. They want to find the edge. They want to master complex algorithmic trading, tax-efficient offshore structures, or the latest crypto arbitrage bot. Complexity is often a mask for insecurity. By making things complicated, smart people feel like they are working harder. But in finance, complexity is usually where the fees are hidden. The smartest thing you can do for your money is often the most boring thing, and that's a bitter pill for a genius to swallow. Reason 4. The ego and the expert trap. When you've spent your life being told you're the smart one, your identity becomes tied to being right. But building wealth requires you to be wrong, frequently. It requires you to be a beginner. Smart people are often terrified of looking stupid. They won't ask the dumb question in a meeting about a new investment. They won't admit their business model is failing until it's too late. They would rather go broke maintaining the illusion of expertise than admit they don't know what they're doing. To get rich, you have to be willing to be the dumbest person in the room. Most smart people can't handle the blow to their ego. Reason 5. Underestimating soft skills. This is perhaps the most painful one. Many smart people believe that the world is a meritocracy of technical skill. They think, if I am the best coder, the best accountant, or the best writer, I will be the richest. But wealth isn't just about what you know, it's about how you interact with people who know things you don't. Money flows through people. Negotiating, selling, networking, and empathy, these soft skills are often dismissed by intellectual types as fluff. Yet the person who is a B student with A+ social skills will almost always out-earn the A+ student with C social skills. You can't logic your way into a massive contract, you have to build a relationship. Reason 6. The high earner trap. Time versus money. Intelligence often leads to high-paying professions. Doctors, lawyers, engineers. These are prestige jobs. But these roles often fall into the time for money trap. If you are a highly paid surgeon, you might make $500,000 a year, but the moment you stop scrubbing in, the money stops. Smart people often become rich but never wealthy. Wealth is having assets that earn money while you sleep. Many smart people are so good at their jobs that they never feel the need to build systems. They become addicted to the high hourly rate, essentially becoming the most expensive slaves on the plantation. Reason 7. Solving hard problems versus valuable problems. Smart people love a challenge. They want to solve the most difficult, intellectually stimulating problems. But here's the cold, hard truth of the market. The market doesn't pay for difficulty, it pays for value. You can spend 10 years inventing a new type of glass that only breaks in the shape of a star, an incredibly hard intellectual feat. But if no one wants star-shaped broken glass, you're still broke. Smart people often get distracted by the puzzle and forget to ask, does anyone actually care about this? Wealth comes from solving a problem for a million people, even if that problem is simple. Reason 8. The fear of selling. To many intellectuals, sales is a dirty word. They view it as manipulation or something beneath their dignity. They believe their work should speak for itself. Spoiler alert, it won't. Every wealthy person is a salesperson, whether they are selling a vision to investors, a product to customers, or themselves to a partner. If you are too smart to sell, you are too smart to be rich. You must be able to communicate the value of your intellect in a way that makes people want to pay for it. Reason 9. Overvaluing historical weight. Smart people often have a sunk cost bias regarding their education. They think, I spent $200,000 and 6 years on this PhD in medieval history. I have to make this work. They stay in low-paying, dead-end intellectual fields because they are emotionally invested in their past efforts. Wealthy-minded people are ruthless with their time. If a path isn't leading to the desired outcome, they pivot, regardless of how much time they've already invested in that direction. Your brain's IQ doesn't care about your bank account, but your bank account definitely cares about your ability to let go of the past. Reason 10. Shiny object syndrome. Lack of focus. Because smart people learn quickly, they get bored easily. Once they figure out the basics of a business or a skill, the intellectual challenge is gone. They move on to the next interesting thing. But wealth is built in the boring middle phase. It's built in the years 3 through 7 of a business, where you're just scaling what already works. Smart people often jump from one idea to the next, never staying long enough to harvest the seeds they've planted. They have 10 level 1 businesses instead of one level 10 empire. Reason 11. The I can do it better trap. This is the curse of the perfectionist. A smart person knows they can do a task better than anyone they could hire, so they do it themselves. They end up being the CEO, the marketing manager, the bookkeeper, and the janitor. By doing everything better, they ensure their business stays small. Wealth is built through leverage. Leverage is using other people's time and talents. To scale, you must be willing to let someone else do a task at 80% of your quality, so that you can focus on the 20% of tasks that actually move the needle. Reason 12. Risk aversion. The comfort of the known. Smart people are great at calculating risk, and because they are great at it, they see all the reasons not to take a leap. They have stable jobs with good benefits. The opportunity cost of leaving that guaranteed 150K salary to start a business feels too high. Ironically, their intelligence makes them more fearful because they can visualize the failure more vividly than someone who isn't thinking as far ahead. They become prisoners of their own security. Reason 13. The social circle of thinkers. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Smart people tend to hang out with other smart people who value debate over execution. They spend their weekends talking about politics, philosophy, or the latest tech trends, but they rarely talk about cash flow, equity, or tax strategies. If your circle values being right more than being rich, you will subconsciously suppress your financial ambitions to fit in. Reason 14. Overestimating the power of logic. Money is not logical, it is emotional. The stock market doesn't always follow the fundamentals of math, it follows the fundamentals of human greed and fear. Smart people often lose money because they try to logic the market. They think this stock has to go up because the PE ratio is perfect. The market doesn't care about your logic. Being wealthy requires a high emotional quotient, EQ. The ability to stay calm when everyone else is panicking, even when the math says you should panic too. Reason 15. The work harder fallacy. Finally, reason 15. Thinking that effort is linearly correlated with reward. Smart people are used to working hard to get the grade. They carry that into their financial lives. They think if they work 80 hours a week, they should be twice as rich as someone working 40. But wealth is non-linear. It's about leverage. One smart decision about where to place your capital or who to hire can be worth more than 10,000 hours of hard labor. Smart people often stay poor because they are too busy working hard to ever work big.
The conclusion: escaping the trap. Being smart is a tool, but like any tool, if you hold it the wrong way, it can hurt you. The intelligence trap is real, but it isn't a life sentence. To move from smart to wealthy, you have to be willing to act before you're ready, be the student again, prioritize value over difficulty, and most importantly, stop using your brain to justify why you haven't started. You don't need a higher IQ to be rich, you need a higher bias for action. You need to let go of the need to be the smartest person in the room and start being the most effective one. The world doesn't pay you for what you know, it pays you for what you do with what you know. If you found this breakdown helpful, it might be time to stop analyzing and start executing. What's the one smart excuse you've been using to stay where you are? Let us know in the comments. Sometimes just admitting it is the first step toward the exit. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more deep dives into the psychology of money.